Welcome one and all, and thank you for joining us for another instalment of the I'll Try That podcast. My co-host this week is Joe Druitt.
Hi.
Thank you for that, Joe. And we are sampling and considering and tasting and having a right old look at Paulaner Münchner Helle. Munich Lager or Hells, if you want to call it that. Before we get into that, I'm going to go back to my glamorous co-host Joe, who's going to tell us about today's hot topic.
Thank you, Matthew, for that sweet introduction.
You're most welcome, my dear.
So this week's hot topic, we're going to be talking about predictions. I know we did some trends a few weeks ago, but we're going to back this up with some hard facts, fact-based predictions. So
you think Nottingham Forest can get promotion to the Premier League this season, don't you? I do too.
I think the pundits are saying maybe not on that one.
Well, what do they know? But I'm sorry, I digress. You were probably going to talk about beer predictions, I imagine, weren't you?
That's true. Let's keep it. Let's keep it on the at least anyway.
Another podcast for another day. That one. Anyway,
another one, all about the Nottingham Forest. So, Budweiser Brewing Group (BBG) has predicted that 70% of beer consumption will be premium or super premium by 2025.
Ooh. So beer is going to be fancier, more upscale, is that the word?
Yes. And I think that's nicely segued me onto what I actually wanted to talk about is how redundant is the word premium? Like, everyone is saying they are premium. So, is that the baseline? What does it even mean anymore?
It's it's like luxury as well. Luxury, everything. No one's going to describe themselves as doing, we do bang average beer. We want, we use average ingredients. We use methods that are fine.
Well, that's exactly it. Our price point is the same. So,
and do you know what? I'm really liking this actually. If 70% of, was it beer consumption or lager consumption? Did you say?
Beer consumption, just beer as the category goes.
If 70% of it is premium, it's no longer premium, is it?
No, exactly. It's not like the definition of what is premium is like it's finite. It's like it's valuable. It has something that's harder to get hold of. But if
we're not going to differentiate between 70% of the beer that's consumed. Yeah, you're right. Just chuck that word in a bin.
That's it, exactly. So I'll kind of go in a little bit further about this, about why they think that. So we kind of think this word is redundant, but let's go with them. Let's humour them for a little bit. Carry on with this report. So they're saying that COVID-19 has cemented a trend towards premiumisation, another great word that doesn't really have any meaning, premiumisation. You're on the journey to being premium, hence you're on the journey for premium. Anyway, nonsense. So it's basically saying that shoppers sought out known and trusted brands, according to them, throughout COVID-19. And according to them, the premium and super premium category is currently worth £3.4 billion, which is up 5% year on year.
That's also, I kind of think that's, to be honest, it's probably about right because it applies to a lot of things. But I always feel like they're going to go, everything's going to grow and everything's going to keep getting more and it's always going to be moving on up. House prices, the economy, everything. Nothing's ever allowed to actually dip down a little bit. So they're kind of going, premium beer sales are going quite well. So it's only ever going to continue. Surely there's got to be a point where, although did they say this was all meant to happen by, was it 2025? They
said they'll be at 70% by 2025, but you're right. It's never going to end. Everything is always going to be more premium. We're on this journey of premiumisation, Matthew. Get on board.
I can feel myself getting more premium by the second. But maybe BBG knows some dark, horrible secret of what's going to happen in 2026 that's going to reset beer back to
the dark ages of beer.
Just dishwater in cans everywhere, and we'll have no more choice. That does sound like a doomsday reckoning.
I mean, this whole idea of ongoing premiumization, okay, it's linked with time by the sound of it. They're giving a date of 2025, but we're on this ongoing, ever pressing forward, never ending, always bearing down on us, of premiumization, and it kind of feels like it's like an age thing, right? So maybe are we saying as we as humans get older, we are also on our journey of premiumization?
That's philosophical. I quite like that. I'm not getting older. I'm getting better.
Yeah, I'm getting more premium.
I like that. Yeah, exactly. I'm being more premium, and I'm a more scarce resource the older I get.
I'm not quite at the super premium level, but I'll be there soon.
Indeed.
Give me another 10 years. So I don't know. I mean, I think the word for me, again, everyone is always talking about, I mean, I work with, these kind of brands on a daily basis. And, when you pick up a brief from them and they have the word, what are you trying to achieve? And it's like, oh, we're going on a journey of premiumization. We're trying to be more premium. We need to be more premium. It's like everyone, it's just redundant. Like, just what is it about you that's different? Like, it's just,
it almost sounds like playground stuff, doesn't it? I'm more premium than you.
Yeah.
No, I was premium first.
And it's almost like if they don't say that's what they're doing, then they aren't it. It's like,
oh yeah, okay, yeah. That's I think that's a good way. If I had we're going to get really tired of this word now, aren't we? If I had a premium brewery, I think I'd look at them all, and go, you can all pitch yourselves at being premium, but we're old school. We always have been, and we don't feel the need to tell everyone about it.
We just are. That's where we are. It's almost like the ones that shout the loudest tends to be the ones that don't have as much substance behind them.
It's like the lady doth protest too much sort of thing.
We're
really, really premium, honest.
Don't ask us any more questions, but we're on a premiumization journey.
What does premium mean? Oh, well, we feel really passionately about it. It's
all been driven by COVID-19, you see, and it's all driven by beer consumption and and
all
COVID.
I can tell you is we are on the path. How can you be on the path if you're premium to begin with? Just don't be difficult.
Next.
Okay, well, what that means for the rest of us, I'm curious about. Does it mean that people or breweries with less premium associated beers start jazzing them up a little bit and just give them a sexy new label or a sexy new bottle? Or delivery methods, as we talked about. Although actually that was more about brewing process, wasn't it? But that'd be interesting to see how they change. Basically, all the beers are just going to have sunglasses on from now on or something.
That's it. Or mustaches with top hats and monocles.
Yeah. That's premium.
That's premium.
There's the snippet for the teaser right there. Okay, lovely. Well, we now move on to the pursuit of hoppiness. Paulaner. Interesting beer. I seem to have... I've known about it, never really drunk very much. I recognise the distinctive, quite large bottles. I can see them on shelves. I think I used to stock it in a pub I used to work in. And this is, from my understanding of it, and actually maybe this could be a journey of not premiumisation, but discovery.
Okay.
I always understood Paulaner to be old school, proper. Well, I'm sure they will pitch themselves as such, but a Munich Helle's, but like a real purists lager.
Right.
Is that fair to say?
Oh, you're absolutely spot on, because the first factoid I'm going to hit you with, Barber, is the fact that it is brewed according to Bavarian law of purity. Now, we talked about this before, the very strict laws of beer, purity laws that are in Germany. And that means that it's only using water, malt, hops, and yeast.
I'm sure there's been some plagiarisation in
They've all been copied each other's homework.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then everyone's saying, we came up with that. There's a bit of a theme of everyone doing the same thing. So sorry, that was... The law was, if you want to make beer, you're only allowed to make it with
these four ingredients. Yeah, exactly. At this base level, there's a lot of different, subcategory, rules and all this kind of stuff in with these Bavarian laws of purity. But yes, that is the four. That's the main takeaway, is it's only made of those four ingredients, this beer.
What was the fifth ingredient that someone added at some point later on?
So some people use rice. as a a lot of the Asian style lagers will have rice infused in there as well.
Oh, and love. There are some that are made with love, aren't there?
Here in the UK, we'll use barley sometimes in our beer. Wheat beer sometimes use barley, obviously more so.
Yeah, wheat beers. Yeah, makes sense. But and that's quite an old law, I think, isn't it? The purity law.
Well, that's it. I mean, this brewery, did you call it Paulaner?
I've been saying Paulaner.
Paulaner. Well, I always mistakenly put a D in there, so I call it Paulander. So that's not right at all.
Paulander. The less popular sequel to Highlander.
I am the only Paul. There could be only one.
Battle to the death. But it is Seit, which is, of course, German for since. I've got a ropey A level in German. 1634. So we've gone, particularly because we were talking about recently, or maybe we'll soon talk about Curious. This beer's been around a long time, so that's a good one. We normally cover, and maybe I'll have a little look at this to see who's got ownership of Paulaner. But you can only be around for that amount of time when you achieve a certain level of popularity, right?
Well, you asked about who owns them. So Paulaner actually operates 18 breweries worldwide. It's all under the Paulaner Brauhaus Consult GmbH, which is their version of Limited. But they're a huge organisation. And so they're all over the world. You know, they've got breweries in China, Singapore, South Africa, and they plan to have they planned to have 33 locations by 2013. So hopefully they'll have smashed that target because it's huge. And I'll give you another little factoid here. In 2010, the brand sold over 2.1 million hectolitres of beer.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, that's giving you an indication of the scale. And that's by virtue of having a shed load of breweries that's going to do it. And also in fairly populous areas, right? So a bit in Southeast Asia as well. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
So I only know this beer. Obviously, I know it's like a Munchen, like a Helle's, like a Munich-based Helle's. And what also happens in Munich, it's very famous every year.
Oh, is it not the knitting festival?
That's it, the big knitting festival of Munchen.
Stitchtoberfest, I think it's
Stitchtoberfest. Exactly. And no, so you're right. It is, we're kind of dancing around the point. It's Oktoberfest. So it's the big beer festival called Oktoberfest that happens in September. Because obviously that makes sense.
That should bring for everyone just these lovely, lovely images of giant beer tents, huge long benches with people drinking out of enormous steins, and I can't remember the proper name for the ladies who carry them, who must have the most immense strength in their forearms to carry, like, was it 8? Or was it like 16
of these steins? I saw a video, I think we're thinking the same thing, of this woman. Probably, she was, I think maybe like 90 kilograms. You know, she's not a big lady by any stretch of the imagination, quite slight. And she's just stacked like 16, however, like all in two hands, stacked on top of each other. And she's got a whistle in her mouth so she can raise people's attention to the fact that she is coming through with an enormous amount of beer. I mean, so impressive. And the reason why I kind of bring it up is because obviously Paulaner is synonymous with Oktoberfest. I think they're the key sponsor of Oktoberfest, but I have one of their Oktoberfest Paulaner Steins.
Look at that beauty.
It's massive. And it's inside is the biggest can I've ever consumed.
That's a real can.
It's a 1 litre can, which is massive. It doesn't make any sense. You can't, it basically only goes in these steins, because these steins fit. So 100 millilitres to a litre and a litre. I mean, that is, and it also says here, for Australia, its standard drinks is 4.7 units. So a litre of this Oktoberfest Paulaner beer is 4.7 of your Australian limits.
It's funny though, because I mean, particularly with there is a real identity around that beer and that festival. Whether it's obviously a very different beer to the craft beers that are becoming really popular at the moment, but even if this particular one isn't your cup of tea, you can't get away from how important this beer is, and the love for it is huge, indescribably so.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. It is a massive brand. And I'm actually, kind of tasting this because we've taken a couple of sips while we're talking here. And as we talked about, it's a Helle's lager. My Helle's lager knowledge, obviously, apart from Paulaner, I think of German style beers, but I'm also thinking, Camden have a Helle's that's very popularized as their Helle's one. And that's very crisp, but it's a very, quite a bold, lager flavor.
Mm. Yeah. So I got really agitated the other day because someone asked me about the difference between lager, Helle's, Pilsner, and I completely was lacking the ability to articulate the difference between them. Yeah. Particularly bitter hops, I think, are used for Helle's. Mm-hmm. There is a hop, Hallertau, I think is possibly where Helle's came from. And it's particularly in that sort of Central Europe, I suppose, better way to put it. It's almost going into Western Europe, isn't it? Particularly in sort of that Munich neck of the woods. But normally a Helle's and I think Helle and Helle's can be used fairly interchangeably here, but normally has a less bold hop flavour than, for instance, a Pilsner. Yeah. So for me, I almost think of a Helle's as almost a very pure lager. Yeah. Okay. That's probably not a technical description of it, and there is a really complicated definition of Helle's to do with the gravity. They're normally 4.5% to 6%, I think. Mm-hmm. But yeah, to do with the prior to before they're fermented.
In my kind of clunky brain, how I differentiate between a Pilsner and a Helle's, just to single out those two because all of them kind of fit within a lager kind of category. Yeah. But so I always find Pilsners are quite a little bit crisper. They kind of have a bit more of that kind of like a distinctive taste to them. Whereas I find that Helle's, and they're usually Helle's lagers, how they're referenced, they tend to have more of a maltier, almost breadier taste to them, almost creamier in some respects. It's that kind of it's got a little bit more. Whereas the Pilsner is like that. It's crisp, it's clean. It's the Asahi, kind of like crisp lager, whereas the Munich Helle's specifically, I always find is more like that kind of more bodied, like creamier, like a breadier kind of, lager taste.
I kind of want to put my hands up and say I don't think this, just to extend on your point. Mm. I want to say I don't think this, but I can think of people I know, particularly the ones who would probably more readily reach for a Pilsner, picking up a Helle's, and going and saying that it doesn't taste it very much. Yeah. Whereas actually it's just not quite such a. I think the received knowledge is that it's the hop profile is a little more subtle, shall we say. But I think a lot of them will just go, nah, it doesn't taste of anything.
What, a Pilsner?
No, a Helle's.
Oh, interesting.
Pilsner. That's personal experience. So actually, I mean, everyone's going to view it differently.
I think people are. It depends on which Helle's you're having, right? I think that we're talking about this tried and tested, been around since 1634. They've never changed the recipe as far as I'm aware. And it's very distinctive. Whereas I think my go-to would be the Camden Helle's, and that is almost like a crisp, but kind of tasting lager.
That one, I'm sure. Fact check. Where's Richard when you need him? I'm sure
drinking cocktails in Tenerife right now, I think.
Yeah, I'm just greedy so and so. I can't believe he's got the nerve of going to Tenerife instead of recording with us. I'm sure I have got somewhere, and if Rich was here, he could fact check it for me. But I'm sure that Camden Helle's is a bit of a weird one because it is a Helle's made with a Pilsner hop.
Interesting. Yeah.
So that might be. Okay. I mean, I really like Camden Helle's.
Well, that's why it's got a more of a crisp palate, which is what I'm thinking of with that Helle's. Whereas this is definitely a more breadier. I always say creamier, but it's not. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's more. It's got something else to it.
Sorry, it's not an episode about Camden Helle's, but that one, because it kind of potentially bridges the gap there, could be a secret to the success, if you see what I mean.
So looking at, I guess, the packaging, it obviously looks incredibly dated. It's probably a fair traditional. Yeah, sure. Premium. No, but it's
it's on the journey of premiumisation.
It's premiumising its own way. But no, it's definitely standing the test of time. I mean, their like main logo is this circular roundel with Paulaner Munchen round in this blue kind of circle, and then right slap bang in the middle. Do we think that's a monk, a priest?
Friar. I was going to say something along those. Yeah. There is a monastery in the back, I believe.
That would make sense. So this must have been a monastery brew back in the day. I mean, talking 1635, it would have had to have been. Yeah. There was no like big brewery, like corporate breweries back then.
It wasn't hipster brother combinations back then.
True.
Brother actually is a good word, I suppose, in this context. But the main people making the beer were, Franciscan monks and the like.
That's it. So it's I don't know, this yellow colour that they've got, which is quite interesting. I'm sure it's like plastered everywhere, but when I think of Bavaria, obviously the Bavarian flag, that blue, white, is checkered, I think is the right way, where it's the squares. And if you go on their website, they are the main title sponsors of FC Bayern München, which makes a lot of sense. They sponsor Bayern Munich Football Club.
It, really. Yeah.
That's it.
We're drinking the Münchner Helle.
Yeah.
They do a Weiss beer. They do a 0% Weiss beer.
Mm-hmm.
Do a Weiss beer Dunkel. That's dark, isn't it? Dunkel is
correct.
Just dark, isn't it? Yeah. Yep. I can't get my head around what that will taste like in truth. I have had a Dunkel.
I love a Dunkel.
Yeah. Sounds like a really charming nickname as well. The Münchner Helle, and they also do their Oktoberfest beer.
Which is the one that I've got in that Stein. That was a litre can. And they've got this Salvatore, whatever that is.
Oh, I must have missed it.
It's the father of all strong beers, it's referred to.
Wow, okay.
You almost spat up your Paulaner then.
That sounds appalling. That description you just gave sounds like it is a beer that wants to be taken seriously.
Okay, so this is this is not what we're drinking right now. I'd love to get my hands on this though. So it's Paulaner Salvatore Double Bock. Okay, so it was the Paulaner monks who invented this bottom fermenting double bock. We've been brewing the Salvatore for over 375 years, always according to the original recipe, which has been continuously refined over the years. The head is the colour of caramel, and the beer is chestnut brown, combined with a seductive flavour of chocolate to give a pleasing intensity of the palate. Often imitated but never duplicated, the father of all double bock beers, whose names always end in "ator."
I've learnt a thing, by the way. Bock is an old strong German beer.
Is that right? Is Bock? Well, what is Super Bock then? The South African beer.
Yeah, just really good Bock. But it is.
It's a Bocking good beer.
Well, I don't know, it surprises me because I didn't think it would be a lager style, which Super Bock is. Yeah. But I'd heard of My Bock, which is
no, you're making that up.
Yeah. No, which is May. It's May Bock. It's the beer that came in May.
Oh, okay. So it's called My Bock.
Yeah, and there's My Bock, there's Your Bock. Yeah, but that's still... maybe we'll have to answer that on a future episode. Yeah. Why is Super Bock? I think they are. Maybe they are just lagers, but... Oh my goodness, this is good. We're going to finish the episode on a cliffhanger.
Yeah. Well, I want to do one more thing before we jump off from this.
By all means, yeah.
So, we purchased these Paulaners from Majestic Wines. And it's just a wholesaler here in the UK. And I love that they basically go through the trouble of giving you tasting notes or descriptors of each
tell
beer.
Them that the listeners will know how we do all of our episodes.
If I'm quite honest, I think I'm going to read this out to you because it's hilarious. As in, what they've done for Paulaner makes sense, but some of the other descriptors are hilarious. So I'm going to just read out the Paulaner one to give you the scene about what to expect from these Majestic Wines descriptors. Okay, so this is the Paulaner Münchner Helle. It's a beer with heart. Paulaner reflects the way of life of typical Munich folk like no other. In fact, it's the most popular beer in Bavaria. It has the perfect balance of maltiness and bitter hop notes that hasn't changed for decades. Okay?
Oh, I like that. And also it vindicated what I said earlier about bitter hop notes.
There you go. I'll give you another one.
Sounds like a musician, but yeah, go on.
Okay. Ice, 4 kilograms. Handy cubes to put in drinks or chill your bottles.
What? Please tell me you're winding me up.
No, they've gone to the effort of describing ice to someone.
Oh, man. Oh, man. Is that what... I've got this box next to the fridge. It's really cold in there, and there's these lumps of stuff in there. Is that what that's talking about?
That's it. Well, they are handy cubes to put in your drinks or chill your bottles.
Get out. That's not written on a piece of paper.
Mate, I kid you not. That's exactly what's there. Oh, it's brilliant.
Flipping heck. Bloody Nora.
So good.
It's what ice is.
It's what ice is, mate. It's actually, did you know that it's something to do with water as well, I heard, ice?
Yeah, but water's like a liquid, and ice is like a hard, solid thing, so I don't know how the two can be connected.
What's mist, then?
I don't know. I tried to catch fog the other day. Missed. Sorry. Oh, no, cheap shot. Sorry. Oh, here's a good one the other day. To the person who stole my trainers and my high-vis jacket, you can run, but you can't hide.
I love that. That's really good.
Sorry. Should we do numbers?
Let's do the numbers. So, Paulaner on Instagram, they have 112k followers.
Yeah, well, that's we knew they were popular.
Well, that's it. I mean, they've been on Instagram before Instagram was even a thing.
On Instagram since 1634. Wow,
they've been accumulating those numbers for a time. And then on Twitter, they've obviously pieced it up between countries. So the UK has 632 followers. I don't think you're following them on Twitter for anything interesting.
Yeah, I keep thinking about that. I can get how the breweries are on Instagram, but like Twitter seems like a strange thing for a brewery to be on.
I guess unless you've
bloody
got
COVID, lockdown again, FML.
I guess unless you've got like a tap room where you need to do like more like regular updates and stuff and things. But yeah, for a brand like that, doesn't really make sense, does it?
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, Paulaner Munchener Hells. It's a taste of history, I think, if they've really refined the taste over time, but it's very similar to what it must have been back in the day. And yeah, a bit of a bready lager.
This experience has been a positive one, I would say, and I really, really, really want to get to Oktoberfest now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, bitter. Yeah, bitter. Classic.
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe,
Rich,
Barber,
and Simo,
goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.